Now to get the results panel to show up on the stage, we need to assign the active class to the results div, but we don't want to do that until the user has answered all of the available questions. So let's go back to our text editor in the HTML file. Let's scroll down and let's find the results div down here. And inside of the class, after results, let's hit a space. Let's put 2 sets of curly brackets, and let's add a conditional statement in here as well. So again, I like to put mine inside of parentheses. So we're going to check if total questions, space, 3 sets of equal signs, equals the active question. And if that's true, outside of the parentheses, space, question mark, 2 tick marks. We'll add the active class, then a space, colon, space, and then if it's not equal, we're going to add inactive. Now back in the browser, we can hit reload, progress through the quiz again. I'll just crossfade ahead here to the last question. And then once we're on the final question and we click continue, the last question goes away and now our results screen moves into place. So now in the content of the results screen, we have a few calculations we need to make. We need to reflect to the user what their score is, the total number of questions, and calculate the percentage that they got correct. Now while we're working on this, we don't want to have to go through the entire quiz every time just to check to see if all of our calculations are correct. So we have 2 choices. One, we can modify our JSON file to just have a single question. So each time we can enter just 1 question and then the question will be complete, bringing up the results. Or we can temporarily reposition the results panel so that we can see it all the time. I like choice 2 because then I can see it calculating as we go through the quiz. So let's go back to our text editor. Let's go into our CSS file. And down at the bottom, we're going to add some classes temporarily to override the positioning of the results page. So I'll just add a CSS comment here of test. Let's come up here and copy the my quiz ID. So let's paste that. We'll add in our brackets. We're going to come down here and set a height of 1000 pixels. Then on the next line, let's paste in our ID again, then a space. We'll target the results class. Put in our brackets. We're going to set a top property of 650 pixels, then a space, then we're going to use the important flag. What this is going to do is override any of the other sets of rules that we have on the results object. And then we'll do the same thing for the left property. So left colon, space, 40 pixels, and then the important flag. So now these CSS rules will position the results panel on the screen all the time. Now we need to go into our JavaScript file and set the percentage variable. So let's go back to our JavaScript file. Every time the user clicks an answer, we're going to recalculate the percentage. Now we already have the score and we already have the total number of questions figured out, but we haven't calculated the percentage. So we're going to create a new scope variable called percentage. So let's come down here, and after the conditional statement where we check to see if the question state is not answered, but still inside of the select answer function, let's add our percentage variable. So let's hit a return, $, scope dot percentage. Then we're going to set this equal to, and now we need to calculate the percentage that they got correct. So the way we do this is we take the score and then we divide it by the number of total questions. Then we multiply that value by 100. So we'll type $, scope dot score, space, then a /, which is the division sign, then $scope dot total questions. Now we need to take this value and multiply that by 100. So let's come in here and let's put parentheses around this calculation so that this calculation will be figured out first. Then we'll type an asterisk for multiplication. Then we'll type 100, then a semicolon. So this will take score divided by total questions and then multiply it by 100. Save your JavaScript file. Let's come over here, select and copy the percentage variable name. Let's go back to our HTML file. Inside of the results div, we have this item here that says you scored X%. Let's delete the X. Let's put in our Angular double set of brackets for our text binding element. And let's paste in that percentage variable name. Now over here, we're going to say by correctly answering X number of total questions. Another text binding element, we're going to put in score. And then finally, of the total questions, another text binding element, and then we'll add the variable total questions. Now you can construct any sentence that you want for your users. I used all of these variables here so that you could see all of the possible options for pulling that data back out and showing it to your users. So once you have this in place, let's go back to the browser. Let's hit reload. You'll notice right away that we can see the results panel down here at the bottom, and we have a scroll bar here because we now have a quiz that's 1,000 pixels tall. In my browser here, I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so we can see the results panel at the same time as the quiz. You'll notice in the results panel that it says you scored 0% by correctly answering 0 of the total 5 questions. So we already have the results values being properly calculated. So I'll come up here and I'll get the first question wrong. I'll click fourth. It tells me, oops, that's not correct. And down here I can still see that the percentage is 0 and the number of correct answers is 0. Click continue. I'll get this one correct. Indication on the progress bar is it's correct. Tells me it's correct here. I can see that my score is now 20% and I've answered one question out of a total 5. Click continue. I'll get this one correct. Now my score is up to 40%. Click continue. I'll get this one incorrect. Then continue, and then I'll get this one correct. So the results panel is constantly being updated based on how many questions I've gotten correct. Now, before we move on to the share buttons, I do want to show you one other option we have for formatting the percentage. In this particular quiz with 5 questions, we're always going to have a nice even percentage, either 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, or 100. In some cases, your percentage might have some decimal places. So I want to show you how we can truncate some of the decimal places. So let's go back to our text editor. Let's go back into our quiz.js file. And another option we have is to use something called toFixed, which is a math function inside of JavaScript, which will basically round a number to a specific decimal point. And what we can do is we can simply add another set of parentheses around our percentage. So after we figure out the score, multiply it by 100, we're going to put that entire statement in parentheses. Then we're going to type .toFixed, another set of parentheses. And then in here, we can put the number of decimal places we would like to truncate our answer to. So if I put a 2 here, for example, saved my work, went back to the browser, answered a question, you can see that the percentage will have 2 decimal places after the whole number. So if I get the second question right, my percentage will be 20.00. So if we come back to our JavaScript file and put in a number 1, if we went back to the browser, hit reload, my score would be 20.0. Now to see a case where you might want to use this, let's go back to our JSON file. I'm going to come in here and copy the first question. I'm going to paste it again at the top of the document, add my comma, and now we have a quiz that has 6 questions. If we came back to the browser and then hit reload, we'll see 6 questions on the progress bar. I can click begin. I'll get the first question correct. And now we can see that our result is 16.7. If we didn't have our toFixed in the JavaScript, let's go back here to our JS file. I'll take off the toFixed, hit save, go back to the browser, hit reload, begin the quiz and get the first answer correct. You'll see that we now have a percentage that has a whole series of decimal places. So the toFixed gives you the ability to truncate to any number of decimal places and give somebody a much more compact percentage value. So based on the number of questions in your quiz, you may want to use the toFixed to format the percentage. So now before I continue, go back to my JSON data and remove that duplicate first question. And now with our results being properly calculated, next we're going to dynamically create links for email and Twitter that will contain information about your results.